Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have again with us Michelle Parker from So Many Quilts. Thank you again so much for being here with us. I appreciate it. Today, we're going to talk about how she has leveraged social media to grow her long arm quilting business. And like we talked about in our first episode together, I follow you hardcore on social media. It's probably a little creepy, but I love seeing the quilts that you post on social media because in the angles that you post them and the lighting and the way you finish the quilts, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But just kind of take us through, like, what got you engaged to start leveraging social media as heavily as you did?
Well, one was, as I talked before, the man I work for, he had Ladies Boot Company.
Yeah.
And I got to watch them do that. And honestly, I thought Facebook and all that was just for looking at pretty pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
And learned from them. I could see the sales grow as an influencer. Mm-hmm. All they had to do was open the box of the boots and the influencer, the sales. Literally, you can see them in real time. So I did learn from that. And I walked in with my Android phone and annoyed the guy who did that. It's not an iPhone. I don't know how to do it. I just kept asking the questions. Yeah. Michelle and her questions. But I kept asking the questions, and I knew I had to do it. So I learned. I went to a seminar that you were at, and you talked about it and what we needed to do. And true to form, I asked you questions.
You did. Like, you sent me an email follow-up. I had an email follow-up.
Yes. I have these questions because I wanted to understand the analytics behind it.
Correct, yeah.
Because the data speaks volume. I can post pretty pictures, but if nothing happens with it, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, it matters, but it's a nice timeline for us, but it doesn't generate new business. How does
it help generate the business?
I needed that. I use it to generate business.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, here at Linda's, we use probably every social media platform that is available, but we see better uptake on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, just from our personal, just our data, our demographic, just the research that we've done. Which platforms have you seen the most success with?
Facebook.
Facebook, okay.
And not Facebook, my business page necessarily, but Facebook groups. So I'm in Texas. He's in Texas. Yeah. We're 15 minutes apart, so they get to see me sometimes if I'm having
3 or 4 times a day?
Yeah, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day if I'm having a bad day and can't remember to read my list when I'm here. So we're close.
Yeah.
So I'm in a Facebook group for Texas quilters. Mm-hmm. Now, Facebook groups often have rules.
Yes.
And the rules is you can't solicit. But I can say, this is a customer's quilt that I just did. And I get more direct engagement. I get more engagement from Facebook than I do from Instagram. People are just on Instagram. They are handling it as pretty pictures.
Yes.
I do have customers I've gotten from Instagram, but most of mine have come from Facebook. We do have the demographics for for quilts. I'm seeing huge growth in the 30s to 40s now.
Yes.
Huge. But most of quilters are a little older. Mm-hmm. So they're more comfortable responding, engaging, knowing how to use Facebook to post a comment.
Right.
I was talking to a friend. I said, you post comments on Facebook, but you never post a comment on Instagram. I didn't know you could. And so I said so I educated them how, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So the older generation, this sounds terrible, but it's true. They just don't know the same way. Yeah. And so they've used Facebook for a long time. But Facebook specifically groups, has been really good for me.
Yeah. I think Facebook is a little bit more user-friendly in the way that it's spelled out. Like, you didn't, your customer or friend didn't know the commenting on Instagram because it's icon-based on Instagram.
Yes.
Where Facebook is icon and word-based. So you can see comment, and that's where I'm going to do that. And you can see post, and that's where I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. Where Instagram, it's a bubble and a
it's
flying
an assumed
thing.
Yeah, it's an assumed thing.
Yes, yeah. So do you see in these groups or even on your personal business page with Facebook, are you seeing better times and days for posting? Because we have, we've got our times and days that work really well for what we do based on what we've seen. But what are some good times and days that you've seen over time?
See, I originally was going to go to tell you the ones that were useless to me.
Yeah.
But Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, pretty much useless. People are, and I know that from my e-commerce world. So e-commerce sales, and if you can think of them as a check mark, and that check mark starts on Saturday and things head down. Well, really Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they head down and they're to no sales. And then on Sunday night and Sunday afternoon, they just go up like a check. And you go back to Wednesday and then you start again.
Yeah.
And that's how sales, and that's the same thing that happens with social media. On Thursday, people are thinking about the weekend. So they're searching their kids' games, when are the games, what am I going to do tomorrow night for dinner? Friday is useless. Saturday is just as useless. Sunday, people are sitting on their phone during the ball games or whatever they're doing as they're resetting for the week. Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday's iffy, so I for sure post on Sunday. I for sure post on Monday. I for sure post on Tuesday. I'm trying to post more often on stories, stuff on my stories on, and I start with Instagram, and which pushes to Facebook.
Correct. Yeah.
Because it's just, quite honestly, it's easier, and I get all the benefits Instagram has to offer, even though Facebook, some of it plays well and some of it doesn't quite the same. But when I go from Facebook this way, I lose the benefits I have over here. So it's just easier for me. I go Instagram, pushes to Facebook. And I see reactions, I see interest, but on my stories, you're going to see things like, oh, this morning I posted a thing about bats because I'm feeling a little batty today because I'm quilting a quilt that's bats. And it's going to be that kind of, I'll call it nonsense.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Not anything I expect to be life-changing for me other than, well, I say that, but that bat thing or the outer space setup I posted, that has gotten me customers as well. Oh, really? I've got a Halloween quilt. Or I've got.
You can do that.
Yes.
I get that a lot when I post things on Reels and stories and stuff on social media. I didn't even know my machine could do that, or a machine could do that.
Yeah.
Can you lean or navigate me to somebody that can do that as well?
Yeah. It's amazing what the things you least expect.
Right.
Do some good.
Yeah.
And you might see. We're getting to where it's nice and cool in the Dallas area right now, cool enough for our hot air balloons. And we're up here north in McKinney. I refer to it as McKinney, Oklahoma. Because I was living 3 years ago down in the heart of Dallas. So this feels like a bit like Oklahoma. We have open spaces. Yeah. So we have places for those hot air balloons to land and take off. So occasionally now we'll see a hot air balloon while we're having breakfast and stuff like that. So, but Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday's iffy.
Yeah.
And if I could just disappear those other days, it would be fine for me. And sometimes I just do because I'm head down.
Focusing on other things.
Yeah. Quilting running the machine.
Okay. So having that social media, kind of that leveraging that on Facebook, Instagram, and sometimes other platforms, outside of just those two, are there any other things that could be use to leverage your presence, like a website, a Google listing, different things like that? I know that's not really social related, but that's where people are going.
But it is.
I guess, it kind of is. Yeah, it is kind of social related. Like, where are those things that you see for your
one
business?
of the first things I did was set up a website. So my website is not e-commerce.
Okay.
It's not transactional because lots of long armors do have a place where you can place your order for your quilts.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not how I function. I need to talk to that customer.
Yes.
If you give them an intake form that's 22 questions, they're going to stop at about 3 or 4 and move on.
Right.
I give them those 22 questions. They just don't know because it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So my website is not transactional. It's a nice Yellow Pages ad.
Yellow Pages. Sat on those back in the day.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't read them, but I saw they were my
we used
booster
to use
seat.
them. We used to use them. And so it's a very nice Yellow Pages ad. It has it's got a picture of me and haircut who knows how long ago, and a little bit of history. It's got some of my customers' quilts. It's got, I won't say all my designs because it's easy to, did I put that on there or not?
Right.
But I put them on there because I do have more and more customers who have taken the time. They're enjoying the process of looking through. I didn't know there were so many choices.
Right.
I didn't know there were so many choices. I've not put the thread on there because the colors sometimes
monitors
on their
are
monitors,
really weird.
yes.
With color on those.
So I might suggest to them Glide Khaki, which has a gold look about it when it's stitched. And they may look at it and it looks dirty beige.
Yeah.
And I don't want that beige on my gray quilt.
Right.
Or my white quilt. So
right.
I haven't got thread on there. So I use the website. I also have a Google business page. And sometime this year, May or so, we now have a category for long arm quilters.
We do, yes.
So I was originally in as a quilt shop. So I would get...
You told me you had some people show up.
I had some people show up, and one lady showed up and I wasn't there, and I used my Ring doorbell to talk to her, and I could tell she was not happy because if I'm a quilt shop, why am I not there?
As that,
and now we can be long arm quilting,
yeah.
And so that is huge.
Yeah.
Next to Facebook, that's where I've got most of my customers.
Really?
That's my second. Other than humans,
yeah,
that I know. Oh, Corey told me to come to you, or Sally said, I said, how do you find me? Google. I just search on Google Maps in your account, and and on that Google business page, I refresh the pictures on a regular basis. I don't have designs on there because people are just looking like when you're Googling a restaurant. Ooh, what does the food look like? What does the menu say? Yeah. So they're not looking at that. I mean, because it flat said I work by appointment, and people were showing up at the door when it said quilt shop.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is, and I'm prepared for that. I mean, there've been a few days I look like something the cat drove up because I didn't, but that's okay. It is what it is. But I fortunately have had nobody knock on the door those days.
That's good.
So I may be in there working. So Google business page and a website are huge. I've listed myself on any guild that I'm a member of that has the ability to allow me. And one of the things people have said, you have a website. Because if I was listed at michelle@gmail.com, that tells you nothing other than I have 2 L's in my name as opposed to 1.
Yeah.
And if you're a Michelle, there's a right way and a wrong way to spell Michelle. And so, it's things like that. And, you have a website. And and my Facebook and my Instagram, which are the same but different.
Right.
And so that has helped. Those 2 things have helped tremendously.
So we've spoken on Facebook, Instagram, your website, and the Google listing. Everything that you've listed so far that's helped you tremendously is very low in monetary spend.
No spend. Well,
the website you gotta have a domain. I have
my GoDaddy domain, and I have an annual something to have my Yellow Pages.
Yes. So the very low spend, you're not spending thousands of dollars to do this, and this is helping with your organic traffic.
Absolutely,
because we see a lot of intimidation in the social presence from people wanting to get into it because you see online. Paid ad. And you're thinking, okay, I want to share my business, but I don't know if I want to spend thousands of dollars.
We all assume that's the numbers.
Right.
I have done Google ads a few times.
Okay, yeah.
And you set your limit. I said, okay, I'm going to spend $25 in the week.
Okay.
And you can set a daily limit. And when you get there, you tell it what demographics you want. So I think mine is 25 to 65 or 25 to whatever, long arm quilters. And when I first started it, because I wanted people local to me, I picked Dallas County, Tarrant County, and that's before I was up here in McKinney.
So now,
and so Collin County and Denton County.
Yeah.
And it was amazing what it did. I got out in front of people. I got more followers on my page. So I am not motivated. That's not the right word. It's not important to me what the number of followers I have.
Yes.
It's engagement.
Yes. It's all about engagement.
I get a ton of information. When I post on Facebook, I get a ton of messages and things like that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of ways to automate those responses to them. I haven't actually done that. I do have on my phone a section for notes, and it's got my response.
Yeah.
And I read it. I see their question.
Make sure it kind of goes.
I read it. They didn't ask about so-and-so. They found me on Facebook, so I don't need to put Facebook. I can erase that part out. Or if they ask about a T-shirt quilt or they ask about a deadline, I make sure those things are included so that they get more than go to my webpage.
Yeah.
If they wanted to go to my webpage, they could have done it.
They would have done that, yeah.
They are expecting a conversation.
Right.
And so I know, don't want to be negative, but some of the people, they have an intake form. You do everything automated.
Yeah.
I just don't, that doesn't work well for me and what I'm trying to deliver as far as a quality product to my customer.
I think a quality product and a quality customer experience.
Yes, absolutely.
In the last podcast when you were here, you spoke about how you prioritize customer service over anything.
Absolutely.
And having that wonderful experience, especially on a social platform, you want it to still feel as organic as possible.
Yes, and be automated somewhat.
Yeah, and be automated somewhat. Like I know for our messages, our DMs on our channels, we have that first automated message just to let someone know that someone with our team will be with you.
Like
I
do
you're
that
not just
too.
going into a queue.
Yes.
But after that, we try to keep it as organic and as natural
a real human
as possible. Because on all these other things that we go to, we're normally talking to AI or a robot, where I want to talk to somebody about my quilt, my thread, my batting, something to make that. But you're also then creating a different experience that they probably haven't had from another long armor.
You are,
and I can't speak for every long armor because I know a lot of them have a great experience.
Yes,
but but like you had mentioned before, that when you had the one customer come in that said, I didn't know I had these choices. Oh, yes, you've got choices. And we want to make sure this is what it is.
And I want to know, so I have customers, and you were helping me with a thread color the other day. So it's a raspberry ruby star with gold flecks on it and deep maroon flecks on it and even some silver. And she wanted it to show. Yeah. And every thread I was putting on it, because of the raspberry color, the golds were turning orange.
Yeah.
So I really had to work to get it, but she wanted hers to show. And my question for someone is, do you like your quilting to show? And I have an example of, in my studio, that quilt's all about the quilting. Or do you want the quilting to be part of it? So I tell people, I consider I'm the supporting actor. Your quilt is the star actor and the lead actor. And so how do you want this to work? And sometimes, oh no, they want the lead actor and the supporting the quilt to be side by side.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Equals. And others want it to be emphasize what's going on.
Right.
And so, that sometimes do you want white thread?
Yeah.
Or do you want do you want the bats to be purple thread, or do you want the bats to be ivory thread and to disappear?
Right.
How much do we want this story to be?
Right.
And it can change from they could bring me 2 quilts, and the story's different on each quilt because they made them for different reasons. They're using them different. Obviously a Halloween quilt and a baby quilt. Those, you probably want the Halloween quilt to be bright and obnoxious,
right? And
the baby quilt to be sweet,
a little more soft and subtle.
And soft and sweet. Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you think you would be, and this is of course hypothetical, do you think you would be where you are right now in what I interpret your level of success if you weren't leveraging social media or leveraging your website or your Google listing?
No.
Yeah.
Because I'm yapping here and all that. I'm more of an introvert than I'm an extrovert. You invite me to a party after we get past the weather, and of course we don't talk politics, and we don't talk, the pandemic and things we don't talk about. Yeah. I'm at a loss.
Yeah.
If you don't want to quilt, and we don't want to talk about quilting, I'm toast. So there's just So things like that. So, but once I'm in my wheelhouse of something I love, I'm all about talking about it.
Right.
So without that wheelhouse of Instagram and I'll say Facebook and Instagram, and not even my business Facebook page, Facebook groups has been, yes. And though there's a group called Quilting, it is truly international. I mean, I heard from a lady and she goes, now, where did you say you were? I'm in McKinney.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, you got to
give me more than that.
And I went, we're north of Dallas. And she's like, I'm in Australia. Oh. I'm in the United States. Oh, shucks. And she didn't say shucks. I don't know what she said, but darn, And so I have customers who ship me quilts.
Yeah.
And which, the mailman knows, the UPS man knows, the FedEx man, and they probably roll their eyes, and I don't really care. And they show up. So I've gotten customers as a result of it.
Yeah.
But most of my customers are local.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the use of hashtags in social media and how that can help expand your footprint more organically. So for those that are listening that might not know, a hashtag has that kind of that pound symbol in front of it, and then you have a word or a series of words that are, as long as they're strung together and no spaces or capitals or anything like that. It then connects your post to that hashtag across the platform.
Right.
So if I search for hashtag quilting, that's a very, very busy hashtag. So you might not see your thing without scrolling for days.
Yes.
But do you use and leverage hashtags on your posts when you're posting in your regular page? Not maybe not a group because those are more blocked, but like your Instagram and your Facebook page. Are you using them to be seen?
Yes. And so I have, again, on my phone, I've got a place for notes. When I'm doing a post, I copy those over and paste them at the end of the post.
Okay.
So I put them down there. And now it's a red and white quilt. So if it was this red and white quilt, I do hashtag red and white quilt. But what I need to do, and I don't always do it, and I have to get up from my phone and walk to the computer, is how is that being used and how is it being used?
Is that a trending
hashtag?
How
is red and white quilts. Okay, that has enough posts.
Yeah.
Somebody has interest in it.
Right.
So it's kind of, what would we equate this to in the real world? If we're talking about ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay. So you drive by an ice cream place and, how busy is Dairy Queen compared to Andy's or whatever it might be?
Right.
Okay. Nobody knows anything about this one or nobody knows anything about that. So I go in there and see how many posts there are. Then I go, okay, what else would I think of this? 2-color quilts. Okay. So I'd look 2-color quilts is active. And things like that. Modern quilting, how active is it?
Yes.
Traditional quilts, how active is it? Reproduction fabrics, how active is it? And I try to put specific ones on there that are appropriate for the post. I have my standards.
Yes.
I actually have done hashtag so many quilts, SEW, and then hashtag long arm quilting, hashtag quilter for hire. Don't know if those are doing anything.
It helps build your catalog, though. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then I'll do 2-color quilts, kids quilts, baby quilts, baby quilt.
Yes.
Sometimes it's both.
Yes.
Red and white quilts, red and white quilt.
Yes.
And so yes, but can I tell if they're drawing something? Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard way to figure out if it's benefiting. But you know that your post is going otherwhere besides the people that just follow you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like if I post this one and put hashtag red and white quilt on the bottom of it, I can see it has more, and you can tell in the analytics on a post how many people were following you and how many people that liked yours or the reach that saw it.
Yeah.
How many of them were not followers. And like, it has to be the hashtags that are working.
Exactly.
Because I don't have anything else I put on there.
Right.
So sometimes another thing that helps is when I tag or mention, so I buy all my thread and all my batting from you.
Yeah.
So when I say, and I get asked, it's not to just leverage the additional posts, but I got asked often, so what kind of thread is that? Oh, what kind of batting is that? That really shows up. And sometimes it's the pattern that does that, but sometimes it's the batting that makes it pop.
Yeah.
And so I'll put what kind of thread and the batting, and it's Hobbs batting from Linda's and it's glide thread, Haberdash from Linda's, and things like that. And the quilting design, the same thing. And if I know the fabric line, I'll put it on there. And sometimes I can tell those things up the reach, but on a regular day-and-day basis, I think it is those hashtags that if I were to put a blue and white quilt and hashtag blue and white quilt, I can see the difference there.
Yeah. I think you you touched on something in the previous podcast where you said online or social media or Google or whatever, give more information than you think is really needed.
Absolutely.
When it comes to explaining what the project is.
Yes.
Because when you then tag those vendors and you're explaining those things, one, I think it gives you a little bit more credibility. People know that you know what you're talking about. But two, you're also tagging and hashtagging those vendors that then they see it. And sometimes they will then repost your work.
Yes.
And then that becomes a whole nother ballgame.
Yes.
Because when your work gets reposted by a thread company or by a batting company or by Linda's, you are then bringing a whole nother level of credibility to your work. You know, I was featured in, I'm going to give myself a little kudos. I was featured in Corey's newsletter, you know, and he talked about this, this, and this. And then you could then do a post off of that to show that you're not
Which I did.
You did. You did.
I did.
You leveraged the social media.
I did. And sometimes, okay, so another big thing that will work with that. So I might quilt a quilt that's Then Came June's Meadowland quilt. And people are seeing it because they're looking for that Meadowland quilt. And they like Then Came June. And sometimes I'll post, I did something with a Robin Pickens pattern, and she reposts it to her story. And people now see things. I occasionally quilt for Moda. And so sometimes I collaborate with them when I do a post, and their followers, it's interesting, when I collaborate and I invite somebody, they now actually kind of sort of own the post, which I think is a little backwards, but hey, it's worked.
It's interesting, but it works.
It is interesting that I don't own it. They've now owned it, but I get the benefit of all their followers seeing it, and people are like, oh, you quilt for Moda?
Right.
You quilt for Robin Pickens? Well, no, I didn't quilt for Robin Pickens.
Yeah.
But I quilted one of her quilts.
Right.
Or, you know, a pattern someone made from one of her quilts.
Right.
And it does give you different credibility.
Yes, it does.
And things like that.
Yeah, it gives you a different viewpoint.
Yes.
Is seen.
And you get seen by different people.
Yeah, no, 100%, especially from the collab effort. Then you're, again, like you said, reaching out to those followers that didn't really even know you existed. You know, and that's just an amazing thing that's offered by social media.
And so one of the things, you know, we talked about from my previous life, things I brought with me, and the furniture, and we had to write copy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I can write a Pulitzer Prize winning, award-winning copy one day, and the next day it's like, my name is Michelle.
Yeah.
What else?
And for those listening, copy is the text
and
that is
short
on the
today. You know, and so that's really hard.
Yeah.
That if I struggle, it's with the copy.
Yeah.
How many ways can you say this is a really pretty quilt? And you know, I stand at the machine and I do a lot of, wow. You know, I do, and look how pretty this is. You know, how many ways can you say that in words?
This is
and not,
pretty.
Yeah, this is really pretty. So that is something that I actually have used AI a few times for. And a few times I'm like, holy moly, I don't know how you got that out of what I said, but okay.
I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
I've done it sometimes too.
I need to start using the rethink option.
Yeah.
You know, I need you to rethink this, or rethink this before you give me something, because if you've ever put anything into Chat GPT, you've hardly pushed send and it's
already done.
Erping back at you, and you're like, wait a minute. Okay, you did do what I asked you to do. So if you ask it to rethink, and so now it's done its thing,
right?
And now, okay, let me do this again differently.
Yeah.
So it just requires. I honestly try to do most of my postings from my phone, but I need to probably do more of it from my laptop, from the computer, so that I can multitask differently. It's just I probably need to move my computer. Closer to things.
Yeah.
It's in a different room, and I don't go very far from the machine when it's running.
Same.
Workroom. I got somebody else's handiwork and beautiful work in front of me.
I'm not really leaving it.
If the machine decides to erp or the needle breaks or something, let's not happen.
Yeah, we're not.
So I don't go very far. So that requires me doing it at a different time. So, but social media and all those things and the hashtags and the tagging people, those all make a difference.
Yeah. I definitely think in the social realm now, like you brought on the point of AI, and in the social realm now, there are a lot of those tools that are in beta right now on Facebook and Instagram that when you type something in, it can suggest it a little bit differently or write it a little bit differently. And sometimes it doesn't really know quilting all that well.
Yeah, it's getting better.
It is getting much better.
It's getting
much better. But it really helps when you're trying to figure out how you want to explain something, to say, I want to talk about this red and white quilt, but I want to mention how it's got really beautiful piecing and it's got this and it's got this, and I'm going to jumble up over my words as I do it. Can you write me something out? And I can then edit from there.
And that's what I do.
And I do that for a lot of our stuff too, because it really helps me rethink a different way. Because when I type something out and I put copy in, I say, this makes so much sense to me because I wrote it. But then I give it to my mother to read because she fact checks
takes the big red pen to it.
Yes, she does. The big red pen, red Sharpie, the all sorts of stuff, blowtorch to it sometimes. Yeah. And she's saying, yeah, Corey, that makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to anybody else. They're not going to understand what you're saying. And so I've leveraged AI to, can you help me simplify this and make it easier for people to read that aren't quilters or aren't sewers? And that's helped a lot on our reach on a bunch of different things. Yeah. Because, you know,
just, it takes time you don't realize you need to have.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's where I probably really do need to move a laptop in there closer to me, because yes, the machine's running and there's plenty of things to do, cutting batting for the next quilt, measuring it, find centers. So when you go to load it, and all those things are ready. And then the photography, what do I was going to say, I liked to copy the least. Photography's right up there.
Really? I love taking photos of quilts. I guess I've just gotten so, like, I've just done it so many times.
I've done it.
I know the exact angle and lighting and this and
I've
that.
got all those things. And then I've got those that I know are going to kick my butt with photography. Yeah. They just don't play nice. And others, oh, man, bring me 1,000 more of these. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah. You know, and others, the lighting just
doesn't hit right.
Just doesn't play right.
Yeah.
I can tell a sage green, I struggle with getting
sometimes the color can really play with you.
And so then of course I'll get, the colors don't look right. Well, and I'll send it to them. I send the pictures that I take to my customers. So I send pictures, make sure they've gone through my phone. And so that their words don't get lost in the middle of the messages. Right. After they have the pictures, I tell them they're ready. We'll schedule a time for pickup. And I said, okay, I still need to work on tweaking the colors because I'm not happy. She goes, you're right, they're not right. And I'm like, oh, geez, okay. And she's right.
Thanks for telling me.
She's right. It was terrible. Yeah. And some of them you just can't, they just don't play. When they're really muted to each other, it's really hard to take.
Sometimes they wash out. Yeah. That's definitely a hard one.
But I have my pictures that I take, and I know that is just, makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, again, thank you so much for being here. I always love it when you're here, and hopefully we can do some more of these and we can figure out some other topics to talk about. But this one's been a great one, talking about how to leverage social media and your success leveraging it. And so, again, thank you so much. And thank you all so much for watching. The podcast here is brought to you by Linda's, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.